Hey, 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 people. Growing up, Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball were just monumental parts of my childhood. They were like the show I would watch every day, all the time. That eventually transpired to other anime like Bleach and Naruto and just all this other stuff that came later. But that was when I was very young, from like ages 10 to 14. Now that I'm older, I've kind of distanced myself from it. I haven't been that engaged in the show. I haven't really watched Super. I've heard it's really great, but I just really haven't had the time, in all honesty, to sit through it. And I've also kind of been waiting for the English dubs. Personal preference. But when I had heard that Arc System Works, creator of one of my favorite fighting games of all time, Persona 4 Arena, was working on a Dragon Ball Z fighting game, my mind was just like, wait. I have to play this. Growing up, I was also a huge fan of the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, all of the Budokai fighting games. I like those in the casual sense, in the fact that they were just wrought with fan service. There was so much fan service in those games. I haven't really gotten into them as much now, and that's mostly because my tastes as someone who plays video games has kind of, I don't want to say been more refined, but I've kind of grown to enjoy more FGC focused fighting games. Stuff like Persona 4 Arena, stuff like Guilty Gear, stuff like Marvel vs. Capcom or Street Fighter or MK9 or, whatever. So with that in mind, I'm not really a fan of the Xenoverse games. I respect them. I understand that they have their audience, and I see that people really, really love them, and I can see why they love them. It's a really immersive 3D arena action fighting game. But they're just not for me, I'm just not a fan of that type of genre of game. I've tried getting into it and I just couldn't. But this game, Dragon Ball FighterZ, looks just amazing. It really does. It looks so great. It's taking the tag team battle mechanic system from Marvel vs. Capcom games that I love, and it's mixing it with the visual style of an Arc System Works game and the complexities that most Arc System Works games have. On top of that, it's mixing it with a game that really seems focused on appealing to people who take games on a little bit more of a serious level. And I'm not saying that games like Xenoverse aren't legitimate. It's just that, there's a reason why games like Guilty Gear and Street Fighter and Marvel are all on Evo stages, and why they're praised as this esports thing. And that's because we have an audience for it, and that's because the developers take a lot of time in making sure that the gameplay is as tight and as intricate as possible. I'm not super pro at fighting games at all. I'm someone who kind of casually follows the serious aspects of the fighting game community. I'll tune into Evo streams. I'll tune into, DreamHack I tuned into a little while back. I love Smash Brothers, I love Marvel, I love Street Fighter. I'm excited about so many things about this game, and I'm hoping that they really hit it out of the park, considering that, again, Arc System Works made one of my favorite fighting games of all time. I'm holding this to a high standard. So there's a lot of speculation revolving around the game's roster, what the characters are going to be, how they're going to play, what they're going to do, and I'd like to weigh in a little bit on this. I am excited to see what they're going to put in, who they're going to put in the game, but I also know there are limits, So I kind of want to list out 7 unlikely characters that I think are going to make it in the game. 7 characters that, you wouldn't really expect to make it in the roster. If they had to cut costs somewhere, I think it would probably be in these 7. Plus, not all of them are relevant to the Z and Super universe too. So keep in mind when I'm doing this that characters like Kid Trunks, Goten, Adult Gohan, they're kind of like shoo-ins, right? You kind of expect them to be in the game. They're guaranteed spots, essentially. So keep that in mind for the future, and keep it also in mind that, considering that we have gotten the confirmation that Super Saiyan Blue is in the game with, Super Saiyan Blue Goku, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, I don't get that name. Goku and Vegeta are in the game, and Golden Frieza's in the game, that I think there's a good potentiality that we'll see representatives from Super here. I think there's a good chance that that's going to happen. Let's just jump into it. Let's just jump right in. So my first pick at number 7 would be Beerus. As I mentioned, it's a good chance that super characters are going to be in the game, and I could totally see Beerus being like a final boss, like the Oni or the Akuma, the Shin Akuma of the game, where like you go through the arcade mode and there's one unlockable character, and who is it? It's Beerus, and you gotta fight him, and that would be like really awesome, considering he's like a god among gods. He's the god to go to, and he has a lot of cool aspects to him from what I've seen in the Battle of the Gods fight he had with Goku. I think he could do a lot of unique things. Like, I could see him being a slow, floaty character, a zoning character who has like these projectiles that go around him, like that stay as active hitboxes around him. I could see him using his tail as like a good zoning tool too. I could see him, kind of being this tall, looming, really strong force in the game. Maybe being like the mixture of like a heavy character and a grappler. But I mean, he's just like, he's such a badass, like he's one of the main reasons that Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball in general, has become so popular again, because him and Goku and the Super series in general kind of sparked this new invigorated fire into the series. I think he's partially an element in that. He's a character that people think is really cool. He looks cool. He seems like he'd be fun to play, and I'd love to see him in the game. Okay, so number 6 is actually, this is going to be a weird choice. It's Pan from Dragon Ball GT. Pan, so Dragon Ball GT, I know people don't like to remember that show for whatever reason. People think it doesn't exist, but I actually liked a lot of aspects of it. I think there were some things that it kind of did weird, but for the most part it was very good. It was a very strong show. I would love to see if there's any representative, aside from one other, but if there's any representative from GT, I would love to see it be Pan, because the show was kind of her show, right, in a lot of ways. Any episode that didn't revolve around Goku usually revolved around Pan, and she is a popular character, she's a cool character. We don't really have very many female characters in this game, and I think she would be a good choice to kind of add in. I think she could use the little robot, I think his name is Giru, to help assist her. So he could be an active hitbox, maybe he like blows up. He blows up, he runs across the screen and blows up. And she could use, what's that move, the Masenko? That's like the only move I remember that she has. She could use that would be cool. She has a lot of things to go for, and she's a good character, cool character. Love to see her in the game. Number 5 would have to be Pikkon. I'm saying that right? Pikkon. Surprise, first Dragon Ball Z character in the list from the game that's primarily composed of Dragon Ball Z characters. So Pikkon, I mean, if there's any character that like isn't a mainstay character, Pikkon was like mostly filler, right? He wasn't really in an arc. He was just kind of like, Goku's dead, he has to fight this one dude, and he kind of looks like Piccolo, and Pikkon was like the most serious non-main series like saga based fighter. He has a lot of cool moves, and I think he would be a character that like functionally would act a lot different from some of the characters we have in the roster. Like, I know he does that tornado move. That would be cool to see as like maybe a level 3. He's got his lightning flash attack, which that would be really cool to see too. He's got just like a lot of things going for him, and he's someone who's like would be able to keep toe-to-toe with a majority of the characters in the roster already. He'd just be a really cool representative, so I'd love to see him too. So there's one other character from GT that I think would make a really good representative if there's going to be a GT character, and that is Omega Shenron, or Shin Shenron. I'm doing that right? Okay, I'm doing that right. Omega Shenron would be a really cool, like, Zangief type character. I think he'd be a really cool, slow, heavy hitter. I think he could use his heat armor thing as, like, super armor to armor through attacks. He's got his Dragon Thunder, where he like has the Bowser turtle shell spike shit coming from his back. He has eye lasers. He could use that as like a projectile tool. Maybe he could pierce through other projectile attacks. He has his Ice Ray. He has the Kamehameha. He just has everything. Omega Shenron. I don't know if that would be possible because the Dragon Balls, if they're going to be canonical with it, right? The Dragon Balls are a mechanic in the match, and Omega Shenron uses the Dragon Balls to turn into Omega Shenron. So that would be like a little weird, but I mean, like, as long as they're not being too serious about the canon of it, which, like, when you have a game where Yamcha can beat up Frieza, or where Yamcha or like Tien can beat up Cell, I think anything's fair game at this point. You really can't say like, oh, they're not being canonically correct. Well, like, then why is Krillin a serious fighter in this game, you know? That's one thing to keep in mind. There's another character from Z that I haven't mentioned that I think is kind of unlikely but would be really cool to see come in the game, and that is the Great Saiyaman. I think he could be really distinguished from Gohan. He'd be a really cool joke character. I could see him being like the Dan of the game. Maybe he's just like really awkwardly slow, or his normals are just really bad, or he trips or something. I think he could call him like Videl or the Great Saiyawoman to assist him in a fight. Like, you know, how the androids work, I think they could work in a similar way. That'd be really cool. I'd love to see it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it's more likely than a lot of the things I've listed so far, but, you know, a boy can dream. Numero 2 on the list here is Deborah. Deborah is, again, another kind of more likely character since he's from Z and he's a really, like, badass, prominent villain. I think he could be really unique too. Like, he could work in as a kind of like a stance changing character, where he in one stance uses his sword, his darkness sword, but after like a certain amount of uses, the sword breaks off. It kind of acts like an extended hitbox for him. He could use his cape. He has like his energy breath, his dragon breath move. I think that would be cool too. He could also, as his level 3, like, spear people through, like, the chest with his sword. I guess the best comparison I could make is, like, Robin from Smash 4, if anyone's played that, where Robin's moves after a certain amount of time, like, they'll break and they'll have to be on a recharge, and I think he'd be a cool way to do that. And plus, he's just a badass. I mean, come on. Deborah was a badass. He was, like, one of the best parts of the Buu saga there. And, like, I was kind of sad to see him just get turned into a cookie and die, but whatever, that's beside the point. So my number one most wanted and probably most unlikely character in Dragon Ball FighterZ would probably be Khalifa, and I don't know much about this character. Again, I don't watch Super. If anyone wants to let me know what her like super defining traits are, if she has any, because she might be new, I'd love to hear it, because I think that she's just a cool concept for a character, you know. The first female Super Saiyan, again, there's not very many female representative fighters in this game, and with the inclusion and the knowledge that we already have super representatives sort of in the game, it'd be cool to kind of have at least one super rep. It would probably be Beerus, but if it's not Beerus, then it would be, I think she would be a good choice. The one thing I had read up on was that she kind of tried to turn Super Saiyan 2 when fighting Goku and just got really slow and big. And I could see her being like having two different stances, where when she's in her normal form, she's fast and quick and she doesn't really hit that hard. She's kind of like maybe like Kid Gohan. And when she is beefed up in Super Saiyan, she's slower and she moves slower. You know, she'd be a cool dynamic character. You kind of see her play to the best of those two strengths. That's my list of 7 characters that I would like to see in Dragon Ball FighterZ. If you have any characters, let me know. Maybe I'll do more of this stuff in the future. Like, I'm thinking of maybe doing like things I want to see in Persona 5 Arena, or because I know that's going to happen. Don't fool me, Arc System Works. It's going to happen. Or 5 characters I'd like to see in Marvel Infinite if Capcom weren't a bunch of fucking dickheads who overcharge for their DLC. I'd like to see that too. I was also thinking maybe doing like a little discussion on the season pass for this game, because I hear there's some controversy around it. Maybe I could weigh in, I don't know. But yeah, if there's any characters you like to see, anyone I didn't mention that you really think would be a good fit in this game that maybe I overlooked, let me know. There's a lot of cool characters in the Dragon Ball universe. You know, that's what makes this so awesome, is that we have this eclectic mix of fighters and a wide array from like all of the series entries too. Like I didn't even touch the original Dragon Ball because I think that'd be a little weird, but you know, you have all of these different types of characters that could be together in one universe, in one fighting game. And that's like something I don't think any other series could be capable of doing, you know, having all these strong fighters together in one place. So yeah, see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Drop a like or something if you like this, and peace out. I will see you later.